Hi and welcome everyone to our Positive Planet webinar. Today we're going to be navigating our way towards net zero and asking the speakers in the room today, why is it so important and how are we going to get there? So today's session is being recorded. So if you've joined late or if you want to rewatch that, that's absolutely fine. You'll be able to access that again and watch it back. And there'll also be opportunities to ask questions throughout the webinar. So please use the chat function to do that or the QA section as well. If you don't want to share your details, use the QA section. Those questions come in anonymously to us. And we'll take time at the end to talk about all of that. But before we go into, our full webinar, let me tell you a little bit about Positive Planet. So something Bryony shared with me today that I absolutely love is that she's described us as a small team with a big personality that can make a high positive impact in your business. So I'm going to steal that and use that all the time because I think that sums up who we are pretty much to a T. So we specialize in helping businesses navigate their way through their net zero journeys. We can do this through accurate carbon emissions reporting, reduction strategies, and accredited training programs. So hopefully, we can do the whole program for you and take you through that journey. But we're holding today's webinar because this week is a special week. So it is actually Net Zero Week. So we've got a whole host of things going on our socials. We're talking about success stories with our customers. And so please do follow us on there and see all of the exciting news and stories that we're sharing throughout the week. So today you've got me, Emily. I'm head of client engagement and I'll be your host. But we also have joining us Bryony. She is our head of sustainability. Hi, Bryony. How are you today?
Hi, Emily. Good, thank you. Excited to get started on this.
Yep. And we have Ayesha. She's our lead sustainability consultant. Hi, Ayesha. How are you?
Hi, Emily. Great to be here. Very excited for the session.
So before we kick off, let's just have a quick look at our agenda. So today we're going to be covering what is net zero and why is it important? What are the business benefits of taking action now? What simple steps could you actually take if you're going to take action? And also share some of our client success stories. So hopefully this will give you some real pointers as to, why start now and where to go and show you how successful some of our clients have been as well. So it would be great for us to understand who is in the audience today. If you could all introduce yourselves in the chat, tell us about your sector in there as well. It'd just be great to know who's in the room with us. And that way, maybe we can tailor some of the content to talk about you and your industry as well. So whilst we're doing that, whilst you're popping that information in, why don't we just jump in? Bryony, I'll start with you. What exactly is net zero and why is it important?
Yeah, so the climate crisis, it's arguably, as we know, one of the most critical challenges that we're facing at the moment globally. And if we are successfully going to avoid the worst effects of a changing climate, we need to globally achieve what is known as net zero. So we've all heard net zero lots of times now, but what does it actually mean? And there are a few differing definitions on this. So it's important to acknowledge that we have both the sort of global net zero, and what that means is cutting carbon emissions as much as is possible until residual emissions can be absorbed and stored by nature. So that might be through trees, for example, capturing carbon. It might be in our oceans that captures a lot of carbon. It might be through soils and peat, for example. So there's loads of ways that nature captures carbon, and making sure that those areas are protected helps us to get to net zero. So that's in a global terms. That means cutting carbon emissions until nature can store all of those residual emissions. But what does it mean for an actual business? That's quite different. We need better guidance for businesses. So for a business, net zero means reducing your carbon emissions by a minimum of 90% from what's called your baseline measurement year. So typically that is the first year that you've measured your full carbon emissions. And then once you've reduced to that 90-95%, there's always going to be emissions left over. Businesses can't function without some emissions in there, and that's just a given. But we need to acknowledge that there are residual emissions there, and so we need to then offset those. So that might be, again, through tree planting initiatives, it might be through carbon capture projects. So there's a lot of really innovative work going on there in carbon capture. So there's quite a lot of areas that are quite a few different ways that you could be offsetting those residual emissions. So that's not what net zero means. And it is quite a big challenge. It's not going to be easy. It does call for a complete transformation in how we produce, how we consume, how we move about as individuals. But that doesn't mean that it's not worthwhile. The challenge does not sit in isolation. And it's important for us to acknowledge as individuals and businesses that our changing climate is inherently linked to many other key sort of global and local challenges. And by caring about the environment, businesses and individuals are also caring about people, about our nature, and about our economy as well. So a net zero commitment is not made at the detriment of other business priorities, which I think quite often businesses think it is, you know, it's this or that, but it's not. Net zero is really all encompassing. It is so interlinked with other business priorities as well. And being conscious of those interconnected risks and opportunities helps us to plan for the future and maintain economically and environmentally sustainable businesses. So that's what we try to do at Positive Planet, is to turn what is quite a daunting challenge into easily digestible and straightforward actions for businesses, which is really what we hope to do today, hope to achieve that today, and make you sort of acknowledge the fact that it can be quite straightforward to get onto this journey and take as many of you as we can with us towards net zero. And the slide shows one of probably my favorite climate change images, as it does highlight those sort of intrinsic, interlinked issues. Climate does not just sit in that isolation, and actually by doing something to limit climate change, you'll also be improving the lives of others and our planet in many other ways too, as sort of listed there. So a really nice image, I think, to explain why we would be doing something to get to net zero.
Thanks, Bryony. Yeah, it is a great image. There's definitely things on there that talk to me. So Ayesha, then, why does net zero need to be a priority for businesses?
So businesses are contributing to approximately about 18% of the total emissions in the UK, and of which about half of them come from small to medium businesses. So, you know, with the reach and influence spanning much further than this through our value chain, customers, employees, stakeholders, it's really essential that we play our part in driving these emissions down. And like Bryony discussed, you know, net zero it is not a daunting challenge as we seem for it to be. So it's necessary for businesses to take this action if we are to achieve net zero, and it increasingly makes good business sense on multiple fronts, some of which I'll just share a couple of points about what we get through our clients who are working with us as well. So usually the most general and the most discussed points that we have of why businesses are starting or continuing on their net zero journey is, one is the government's worldwide implementing stricter environmental regulations. Being proactive in sustainability can definitely ensure compliance and avoid penalties for your business. And some companies with strong environmental commitments are more attractive to investors, which are focused on environmental, social, and governance criteria. And we're seeing that becoming more and more popular today. There's potential for financial incentives, grants, subsidies for businesses alongside the preferences to suppliers that are pursuing these net zero goals, some of which we'll be highlighting in our case studies as well today, how this has benefited businesses and how this is helping helping them move along their net zero journey. Another really quick win is, investing in energy and resource efficient processes, which is often leading to significant cost savings on energy bills and other operational costs for the business. Another one that is important to highlight is really enhancing your brand value and your reputation. Customers are increasingly making choices that are based on the company's environmental ethos. Customers are even more aware of environmental actions that the businesses are taking. In fact, in a recent study, about 32% of consumers have claimed that their trust in brands would be improved if they had a transparent, accountable, and socially and environmentally responsible supply chain as well. So, these are some really important points that are highlighted by our clients as well, and why there is a good business case to sort of move towards your net zero journey.
And I think those are all the points that we tend to see clients coming to us and sort of understanding those benefits already, don't we?
Yeah.
But there's probably some other benefits that maybe they're not so aware of or don't actively think about quite as much, but are really important for us to sort of discuss and be aware of. So by pursuing net zero and doing all the things that we've mentioned above, we can drive innovation, so leading to the development of new products, services, and even our business models, how we function as an organization. And we see that with a lot of our clients, and we'll jump to it in some of the case studies that we discuss later on, but developing out some new products, or it might be tweaking some of existing products, so improving packaging, for example, can have a real positive impact on your business and then sales that you might see, or your brand. So there's loads of innovation related benefits that can come from everything that you're doing as part of a net zero journey. And sort of leading on from that, you can then tap into new markets, new customer segments that value sustainability. So 1 in 4 consumers, for example, are switching to more sustainable companies. So brands that they were with before, they're not doing enough on climate, they don't have net zero goals maybe, and they're actively looking for alternatives that are matched or aligned to their own ethos, their own ethics, and they're doing something positive to sort of tackle climate change and other environmental and social problems. Having a clear commitment to sustainability can also improve employee morale, which is often not thought of as a sort of instant benefit of net zero, but it can attract and retain talent that are prioritizing working for environmentally responsible employers. I mean, I think this is shown in a recent Deloitte study that uncovered that 69% of employees want their companies to invest in sustainability efforts. And 76% of employees consider a company's social and environmental commitments when deciding where to work. And I think particularly with younger generations more so, they're really consciously thinking about that when deciding where to work. And we really benefit from this as an organization at Positive Planet. Whenever we put out a job, we get people coming to us and saying they've been following our journey for X number of months or sometimes years, and that they really just want to work for us because we have that purpose, and we're doing something positive and bigger than just, the business and finance. It's actually how we're going to improve our planet. So we really see the benefits of that, and a lot of our clients do as well. But not only that, with your employees, it can also contribute to improved well-being, which isn't really thought about either, because they've then got that sense of purpose and belonging, working for an organization with that big picture goal of doing something positive for the planet and for its people. It's important to feel that in your job and feel like you are doing something bigger than yourself and your role. That's a really important part of well-being in the workplace. And also building sustainable supply chains. So that is talked about quite a lot in a net zero journey, but the sort of risks and the opportunities associated maybe aren't as discussed. But building those sustainable supply chains can really reduce vulnerability to disruptions caused by climate-related events. So that might be you're purchasing from a supplier, or purchasing food potentially from a supplier abroad, and actually they've had a really tough summer, they've had droughts, they've had huge amounts of rain potentially on the other hand, and they haven't been able to produce your goods and your products, so then you haven't been able to pass that on. So we see really sort of impactful disruptions that are happening due to climate related events. But then on the flip side of that, by moving to more sustainable supply chains, you might be thinking about working more with local suppliers, for example. So you're wanting to reduce distribution from abroad and reduce your emissions in that way. By doing that, by bringing things more local, by having a better relationship with your suppliers, you're also reducing vulnerability to potential political related events, which we've seen a lot over the last couple of years. So there's a sort of win-win there for switching to a more sustainable supply chain and having better relationships with your suppliers.
Wow, thanks, guys. I mean, really well summed up. Some really convincing arguments as to why businesses should be thinking about starting their sustainability journey. So in the engagement team, we definitely hear a lot about push and pull factors. You know, we're talking to when we're talking to potential clients, even those that are kind of pushed by regulation, tenders, investors, end up realizing actually the broader business benefits of investing in sustainability. So, you know, that's great. You know, whether those are monetary benefits or better engagement with their employees, as you were saying there, Bryony, their customers or their suppliers. So I suppose then the key question is, you know, what would be the benefit of starting your sustainability journey today rather than waiting for regulation to push you into this?
Yeah, I think it's starting to become really quite apparent now, both with our own clients, but within the wider industry as well, that there's that stark difference between those early adopters or the sort of business leaders in sustainability and those later adopters, and those that are maybe doing it as a sort of tick box exercise. They are being pushed into it and they're not really invested in it. Those that have recognized that urgency of climate change and the responsibility that they do have as a business to take early action tend to be the most innovative and forward thinking. They tend to be the ones that are looking after both the environment but also their people, which obviously I've just mentioned is super important, and having a well-structured internal system and processes as well, leading to better efficiencies and cost savings. And we do see that a lot with the organizations we work with. The ones that are really committed to it have really good systems in place to capture data, for example, already, or they're really quick to make the changes that are needed to be able to capture that data, to be able to understand where things are happening, where their carbon hotspots are. So those who are really investing in this, acknowledging that it is, you know, an all sort of encompassing task and it does have wider business benefits, are the ones that are reaping the benefits. But not only that, they've been able to take advantage of the commitment to sustainability from a monetary and business growth perspective as well. So developing new and improved products, building stronger relationships with their suppliers, and growing a loyal customer base, all of those then impacting their sales and increasing sales opportunities, leading to revenue growth. And it is quite easy, as I say, to tell the difference between those that are committed and those who aren't, and those who aren't are not seeing the business benefits that, you know, we might expect to see if someone's on their sustainability journey. But that's not to say that businesses that are sort of starting out by being pushed either by tenders, by investors, by regulation, whatever the reason is that sort of pushed them down this route, it's not to say that they can't become invested, they can't become passionate and committed to sustainability. Sustainability might just not have been on their radar much before, and that might be no fault of their own. There's a huge amount of other business priorities going on. But if they choose to embrace it at that point and embed it in their business practices, they really will reap the sort of biggest business benefits. And we've got a sort of image here that I've put together, so apologies, it's a bit rough and ready, but to show the cumulative effects of taking action early or as soon as possible and making the most of those opportunities that can have a huge impact on business growth and viability. So obviously taking action now as opposed to tomorrow or next year, the year after, it means that you can start to see some of those cost reductions from efficiencies made, from energy efficiencies made potentially, but also some of the benefits in terms of accessing new markets, improving your brand recognition and lead generation potentially. All of those benefits will start to come sooner, the sooner you act. And equally on the flip side, holding off makes it much more difficult to get to net zero. So your net zero target date isn't really going to change. It can't really change. The government have set a net zero date of 2050, so you couldn't have a target of beyond that. So the sooner you act to achieve that, the less reductions you'll have to take year on year, or the more difficult it gets. And with bigger annual jumps you're going to have to take in carbon reductions, if you leave it till sort of last minute, it then becomes a really difficult task.
Brilliant. So there's some clear business incentives as to why a business should start taking action today. It's going to be an easier path for them. They can map it out over a longer period, and it's going to make everything, embedded sustainability today will make things much easier for them to transition to net zero in the future. So that's great. So now that we understand what net zero is, hopefully, and the various risks and opportunities associated with businesses, I suppose the key thing is, well, what's next? What can a business do to start or enhance their net zero journey now?
Yeah, so I know it might all seem a bit daunting, and right up at the start we said we want to make the journey easier for organizations. If you focus on the vast number of sort of regulations and standards that you might be starting to hear about, it can be easy to become overwhelmed and get a sort of climate paralysis and not do anything. So we're really keen to make it simple for businesses that we work with. And there are actually some really straightforward, quick wins that you can start to take. You don't have to do these big jumps straight away. There are some simple things you can start to be doing. So myself and Ayesha are going to go over 5 sort of straightforward key things that we think you could be doing within the sort of next week or so. So firstly, engaging your people. And I do think that is one of the most important parts of any sustainability or any change journey. Employees are key to driving change within an organization. Their engagement and commitment can really amplify your sustainability efforts. So why not start with a real simple sustainability awareness campaign? It could be something as simple as setting up a quarterly forum, or even just adding it as an agenda item on meetings. So making sure that that sustainability, that net zero is actually being discussed. And then encouraging ideas from people internally. So maybe that's having an ideas box or just in the forum that I mentioned, but allowing people to identify areas for opportunities and maybe also risk areas within the organization and thinking up ideas themselves. That's really how you're going to see the biggest benefits from any net zero or sustainability journey, is having everyone on that journey with you and helping and identifying those opportunities and risks. And then sort of secondly, leading on from that, launching a green team. So yes, it's important to have everybody in sort of all roles engaging and understanding what a net zero journey or a sustainability journey might look like and how they can contribute. but having a team of people, a small team, a green team, who are committed to sustainability. They might be passionate about it or just have an interest in the environment, but who really want to lead the charge and make sure that you're keeping up momentum, keep everyone accountable. That's really important. So that's something that, again, you could start off this week. Go out, explain to people, send out an email to your team to explain that you're wanting to do this, ask for people to put their hands up, who's interested, who wants to lead the charge. And it shouldn't all be sat with one person. So quite often we do see this with our clients, but also the sort of wider industry. Sustainability has been handed to one person, quite often as a tiny part of their existing role. And it's not embedded within the rest of the company, and that really limits any benefits that you're going to feel through a sustainability journey. So it really getting people involved and having at least a small group of people who are committed, leading that charge and who are helping keep people accountable is really, really important. So thirdly, measuring your impact. Now, we know that measuring a full carbon footprint, for example, does take time to get right. And typically we see that taking between sort of 4 to 6 months for most of our clients to complete. But it sort of is necessary to have that full footprint if you are wanting to communicate your results or disclosing them to customers, investors, or on tenders and that sort of thing. But there are some simple things that you can be doing before it gets to that stage. So there are free tools online, for example, that you could use this week just to start to get a decent understanding of where your main emissions hotspots are. And that means that you can then start prioritizing your actions straight away whilst you're working on a full measurement. Or if you have even less time than that, just taking a couple of hours to understand how a business carbon footprint works. So it's broken down into 3 emission scopes, for example. So scopes 1, 2, and 3, understanding what those mean, how do they work, what's included in each of them, and what sort of data are you going to need to be collecting, where's that going to come from. Just taking a couple of hours to understand that will be a real good first step onto your net zero journey and measuring your carbon emissions. So that's the sort of first 3. Onto Ayesha for the last 2.
Thanks, Bryony. So, leading on to all the points that Bryony has already mentioned, another quick, easy win and a very easy action to do this week would be switching to clean energy on your for your business assets. So, for your offices, for looking at, reviewing your company fleet and your company vehicles as well. So one easy way to do this would be setting a task this week to review your energy tariff and set a reminder to switch when your current energy contract is up. So, to put it simply, clean energy comes from generation systems that do not produce any kind of pollution, notably the greenhouse gas like carbon dioxide that most of you would already know about, which is a huge accelerator and contributor to climate change. And if utilized in full development, clean energy drives advances to conserve the environment and also palliates the crisis with non-renewable fuels such as oil and gas. So this would be an easy way to sort of move away from your direct scope of emissions, as Bryony had mentioned, understanding your scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, and seeing how we can look at, moving that into a simple renewable energy or clean energy contract. You can also often, there are lots of tools that are already existing in the market that, offer free support and also energy audits. And one really great example would be our partner IEM 360, or who also guarantees, alongside all the support that they are providing you, a guaranteed cost saving as well. And, a lot of our clients have picked this up and have seen a massive reduction within just a couple of months of their, auditing exercise. And that's a really great action to sort of look at, starting off this week. And another final quick action that will be that seems very challenging, but is really not, is writing key sustainability policies that are relevant and applicable to your business. So they don't have to be difficult or time consuming to create at all. There are plenty of great examples online. We also have some that we can provide you with, which are very, very easy to create. And some key suggestions that we would have for these policies would definitely be travel, procurement, energy, and waste. These are sort of sectors that we look at that can be easily built out, and you have actionable and easy steps within these policies that can quickly be created with after launching your green team, as Bryony had already mentioned, or looking at engaging your wider employee base as well. And you can have this draft ready in just a couple of days, but of course make sure that you're involving everybody and reviewing this with everyone, and also getting a sign off before you implement this company wide. Although simple, these give a great framework to enable some sustainable behavior changes, within your business. They set a precedent for the rest of your net zero journey if you're getting started or you're continuing on it, and they're also displaying your commitment to sustainability to your external and internal stakeholders. So this is a great win to have as well. And the most important part, of course, is communicating this effectively with everybody, which goes back to Bryony's first point of engaging your employee base and looking at how you can involve the wider company into creating these, sustainable and progressive changes. And the tweaking and implementing of these systems will enable your teams to actually make a positive, change in the day-to-day role, alongside having wider business benefits as well. And we've seen this with a lot of our clients that we work with. Once they start engaging people to start doing these 5 simple steps, there has been a significant sort of acceleration towards addressing the climate crisis.
Amazing. So a lot of information to digest there, guys. We have created a guide for you. Your opportunity to download that is now. You can use that QR code there, but we will be popping a link in the chat as well, so you can download it from there. Please don't forget to ask any questions in that chat, and we will address these at the end. But I think really what I'm hearing is that it's important for businesses to understand that sustainability isn't a one-off action completed by a single individual in the organization, but it's actually, if they want to realize tangible business benefits and environmental benefits, you need to get everybody involved and embed sustainability in every area of the business. So whilst that seems a lot, it is great that you've broken down those quick wins, and we've got that guide for our clients. But talking about the wider business benefits, do we have any examples from the current clients that we work with, or industry-wide examples that you guys have got to share?
Yeah, absolutely, Emily. So, we are seeing lots of clients come through, and one key point to highlight with all these clients that have great success stories that are, sharing it with us and, the wider business as well, is that they're all multi-sectoral. So it does not sit with just one individual sector or one individual area of business. We are seeing it in different sectors and different, laterals of the within the business as well. So one great example is NOR, which is an architectural and engineering design firm, and they have strongly committed to sustainability and have a net zero target that they have set with us. They strongly align with the corporate social responsibility aspects within their business as well. So not just the environmental, but also the social and governance aspects, which of course feed into each other and are quite intersectional in achieving our net zero goals. And we've also witnessed almost a 30% reduction in their overall lease spaces, with consequent emissions and cost reductions within the business in just about 2 or 3 years of reporting. And on the compliance front as well, they have, of course, offices all across the world. So complying with Canadian and UK legislation, they've become a front runner within their sector as well to start moving other competitors as well, aligning towards net zero goals and also looking at significant reductions. And they have also pursued some top tier contracts worth upwards of about $5 million. So again, going back to the initial point of, how this benefits businesses, we are seeing them also win great tenders and contracts because they are committed to achieving net zero and encompassing sustainability within the business. Another great example would be Phoebus Software and Digital X-Ray. Both are software companies, and on the compliance perspective, they have taken our support for environmental, social, and governance strategies that we are working with alongside them, and also the EcoVadis certification, which is a very robust sort of compliance exercise. Which encompasses lots of aspects of the business working towards sustainability. And we see both these businesses have a great impact just within the first 2 years of their reporting, with Digital X-Ray, in fact, having just about 17.4% reductions just in the last 12 months. And another great example would definitely be a Holos Change, which is a completely different sector. It's just a consultancy just like ours, but working in the leadership management space. So they are looking at empowering other individuals in different sectors, but they have committed to the Science-Based Target Initiative, which is what Bryony had explained in terms of what net zero really means, what they've established. And they are, on the compliance perspective, alongside having some internal changes to create this sort of effective reduction, they've done a great job as well. So, all in all, with these 4 examples that I've showcased right now, and Bryony, that will be adding on more to, we see the multi-sectoral aspect really emerging more and more within the markets, and we can see the benefits almost immediately.
Yeah, I think great that you've mentioned Knorr there and their ability now to pursue contracts, multi-million-pound contracts. And we do have a sort of similar one to that as well with Concept Products, who are suppliers of workwear and PPE. So again, a completely different sector and organization. But after engaging with us and switching several of their products in its product offering to sustainable alternatives, they've picked up around £1 million of new business just from having those additional products, or those tweaked products and more sustainable products. So that goes back to obviously one of my earlier points about innovation, and naturally sustainability really pushes that forwards for a lot of organizations. So a great financial benefit there as well for Concept Products. We also have Product Group, who are design and fit out residential and commercial spaces. So again, very different, but they've gone through carbon literacy training and also some of our role specific net zero courses. So those are courses, shorter courses aimed at professionals. So we have net zero for procurement professionals, for example, for marketing professionals, for finance professionals. And those are proving to be really impactful. But they've really improved at Project Group the education of key staff across the organization, which has allowed them with their sort of new knowledge to engage in climate conversations with their stakeholders. So with their clients, their suppliers, for example, and really drive those carbon reduction initiatives as well, which is great. And finally, by word of mouth, who again, very different, an events caterer, they have recently stopped working with unsustainable suppliers and have really brought sustainability into their brand. So it's new for them, but areas where we're expecting there to be a really big impact for them is that they're engaging more now with local suppliers. So they're building up that reliable local supply chain. We'll be seeing reductions in emissions because of that, and then that increase in sales. So their branding, as I say, is now all about sustainable events and catering. And so that's really seeing a boost in customers who are interested in sustainability and reducing their impact or their negative impact on the planet. So some really good case studies across the board, really.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've got so many clients that we could talk positively about, but what a great selection. I know that the last 2 that we spoke about, Project Group and By Word of Mouth, they've been through our training. So I just want to touch on the impact of our training a little bit, just share some of those quotes that we've had from some of our clients. We've had from lots of great quotes from training, but these are a few that just stand out to us. So I went into the course with little knowledge and therefore little care. I went away by the end of the day ready to try and make changes that I can do myself and get my team to do. I think that speaks volumes. You know, somebody wasn't sure why they were there, what they were going to come away from, and then they felt that they were empowered by the end of the training. And I just think that just shows what we do at Positive Planet. It's all about empowerment. It's all about knowledge. Vernicare, you know, they're another great client of ours. I know that they've gone on a carbon literate organisation journey themselves, and they're doing really good things. I would appeal to all UK business leaders to mandate this training to their employees in a self-conducted course, much like safety training courses are done today. So they're putting it on par with your health and safety training that every employee has to go through. Put them through carbon literacy training, get them educated in sustainability from the get-go. And we're big advocates of that. We do that in our organisation. It happens as soon as you join us, you know, and we get great feedback from our own staff on our training as well. And finally, get more VIT. I've come away from the carbon literacy training with a renewed enthusiasm for the challenge of reducing our carbon emissions. So again, just bringing the empowerment, making them feel, yeah, we've got this, we know what we're doing, and we can move forward in a positive way. That's everything, you know, that we aim for in our training. So some great examples there that I just wanted to share. So I think that, you know, what we're really summarising, that achieving net zero emissions is a multifaceted challenge, that it requires businesses to take bold and comprehensive actions. So those actions, you know, we've touched on some of those today: engaging your employees, launching your green team, measuring your impact, transition into renewable energy, and building out simple sustainability policies. By doing some of these steps, businesses can make really good strides towards their net zero goals and enable positive change to happen and impact within, you know, positive impact within their business. You know, but not only that, we know that this does provide real business growth opportunities, and you know, it also positively contributes to our planet. So we've got a couple of minutes left, not many, but I'll just have a quick look and see if we've had any questions come in from anybody. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so I think this one is in relation to measurement. So Bryony or Ayesha, feel free to take this one. This seems like it could be quite time consuming and costly. Is it? And how would you suggest managing the process?
Yeah, I mean, it can be, it depends what your idea of time consuming can be. As we say, it is important not to see it as a standalone task. So there's no, you know, net zero sustainability will be ongoing. It's super important to embed it in the day-to-day and not see it as a standalone task that needs to be done once a year. But in terms of measuring a carbon footprint, as I mentioned before, typically on average, we see our clients take about 4 to 6 months to complete, but that can be reduced quite a lot if the organization has really good processes in place to sort of capture their data throughout the year. It can then be quite quick to measure your carbon footprint. Obviously, the net zero and carbon reduction side of it will then take longer, because we need to really think about how we're going to embed some of those actions in that day-to-day within the business. So that can take, again, it really fluctuates with businesses. It's as long or as short as you need it, really. So we see businesses that we engage with throughout a year, sort of every year on an ongoing basis, which are the ones who seem to reap the biggest rewards when it comes to sustainability and net zero. But we do have those that take, you know, a couple of months as well. So there's no one set time frame on it. It is different for different organizations, but it isn't, you shouldn't see it as a time consuming thing. It is just part of business operations, and actually you're going to end up with a much better, more responsible, more sustainable organization at the end of the day. And in terms of, I think the other part of that was costs, was it? So it can be very low costs if you choose a sort of hands-on approach and choose to do a lot of the work yourselves internally. So as we mentioned before, there are tools online where you can start bits of the journey yourself, and obviously upskilling, you can gain a lot of those skills. But there are, I guess, inherent costs involved with that, with the time taken for your team to upskill. So it could work out less costly by working with, you know, experts like ourselves, for example, on doing that. So again, costs fluctuate depending on how much, you know, what your budget is, and we're always open to talking with people on that as well, to understand what's your budget, what are your priorities, and then we can advise on what's the sort of right route for you at this moment in time.
Brilliant. Well, we're coming to the end, really. We're coming to the close of the webinar. I'm sorry that we haven't had a chance to answer all your questions, but if anybody has sent us a question, we'll come back to you on LinkedIn. So please do connect with us on LinkedIn as well, you know, and let us know if you've got any questions that come into your head after the webinar. Make sure you send them over to us, or use the Positive Planet email address, and we'll make some time to chat with you and have an initial conversation about how we can help you achieve your sustainability goals. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back soon with a new webinar series. So make sure you follow us on our socials, and you'll see more about that in the coming weeks. Share our details with your colleagues and peers as well. We want to see as many of you engaged as possible. You know, so thanks, Ayesha and Bryony. It's been really great to hear from you guys today, and thanks everyone for sharing your time with us today. I hope you all have a great afternoon. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Emily.